Hi, I'm Sorrel and today I'm making a vegan salted peanut chocolate tart. So we're going to begin by taking this amazing vegan pastry and lining our tin. I've got one that's 25 centimetres, tiny bit smaller or bigger, absolutely fine. You want to take this out the fridge maybe 5 to 10 minutes before you intend to roll it out. You want it still to be cold, but you need to be able to roll it so not too hard. So you're just going to dust the work surface with a tiny bit of flour and we're going to roll it quite thinly to a size slightly bigger than your tart tin. You want it to overlap the sides. And the important thing is not to maul it too much. You want to keep it as cool as possible and you don't want to steamroll it. Just be really gentle, turning the pastry as you go. We're looking for it to be quite nice and thin. We've got a nice crisp shell for our tart. So I think we're there. So just bring your tart tin. I've got a loose bottom one that helps it, it's a bit easier to take out a bit later. And just pop your pastry in and you just want to push it down into the edges. So I'm just going to trim the a little bit of the excess. You don't want to take too much off. And we are going to keep this for later just in case there are any little holes that we need to patch up. Always good to have a little safety net. So now we're going to pop this into the freezer for an hour. You can put it in the fridge for 4 hours or overnight. And of course you can leave it in the freezer for as long as you want until you're ready to cook it. So if you want to do this, you know, ahead of Christmas, this is a good way to sort of get it ahead. Okay, so our pastry case has been in the freezer for an hour. So the next step is to blind bake it. So piece of baking parchment and just pop it in. And then I'm using a mixture of lentils and chickpeas as my baking beans, something that you can reuse. You can use ceramic baking beans. My mum used to use 1p coins. So just pour those in, smooth them down, and that's it. So we're going to blind bake that for about 15 minutes in a preheated oven. So I've got it on for 180 and then we'll come back to it. Okay, so our tart case has been blind baking for 15 minutes and we're now going to pop it back in the oven to finish cooking it. So I'm now going to remove the baking beans, hopefully without spilling any. So back into the oven, 10 minutes, keep an eye on it. You just want a sort of nice golden crisp base and then we'll come back to it after that. Okay, so the pastry's been in the oven for an extra 10 minutes, so we blind baked it for 15 and then in the oven for 10. We've let it cool completely and we're just gonna try and neaten it up a bit by trimming the edges. And we are gonna fill it with the most incredible smooth chocolate filling. I do find the vegan pastry's a little bit different to work with. It does maybe shrink a little bit more, so just bear that in mind. So there we go, trimmed tart. Okay, so now for our filling. 2 ingredients, really simple. So 500 grams of dark chocolate buttons. And we're going to warm through a tin of coconut milk, so 400 mils. Give it a bit of a shake. So this is like making a sort of dairy ganache really, but we're just using coconut milk as the vegan alternative. On a gentle heat, we're just going to warm this through. You don't want to let it boil, just, you know, nice and slow. Okay, so that's our coconut milk, really nice and hot, but not boiling. And we're just going to pour it over the chocolate. And the heat from the coconut milk is going to melt the chocolate. And you want it until all the chocolate, you can't see any of the buttons. You want a really lovely smooth mixture. Okay, so now we're going to quickly pour this into the tart. That smells amazing, really rich. And just smooth it and get it all the way to the edges. And I'm just going to sprinkle over a tiny bit of sea salt that just draws out the sweetness from the chocolate. And we'll leave that to cool at room temperature for 5 or 10 minutes and then we'll stick it in the fridge for a minimum of an hour. I mean, obviously you can do this the day before you intend to serve it. Just keep it in the fridge and then bring it out about 10 minutes before you want to serve it so it's not too cold and it's just beginning to yield a little bit. Okay, so the final step is to make the salted caramelised peanuts, or it's basically a peanut brittle. So we're going to start with 60 grams of peanuts. And we're going to pop them into a pan along with 60 grams of demerara sugar, 2 tablespoons of cold water or 30 mils, and a good pinch of sea salt. Okay, we're going to put that on a relatively low heat. We want to be really gentle with this. We're just looking for the sugar to dissolve to get a really lovely golden toffee caramel. 5-10 minutes depending, you know, but we'll keep checking it. So they're beginning to sort of bubble up now, as you can see. And that's a really good sign that things are really starting to get going. There is a chance your peanuts could caramelise, go quite crystally, but they're still really delicious. They're like the caramelised nuts you get on, you know, the South Bank when you go for a walk. You can see the colour of the caramel on the sides beginning to become a lot more golden as well. So I think we're really, really nearly there. So you don't want to take it too far and end up with a very bitter burnt caramel. I think we're there. You can just see they are really gluing together, and you can just see the really deep golden of the peanuts. So I'm going to tip it onto a lined baking tray. Be really careful because obviously the sugar is really hot. Working really quickly, and then just spread them out and leave them to set. I mean, it won't take long, maybe 10 minutes, and the caramel will be really hard. And there we have it, our salted caramelised peanuts that we're going to pop to one side. I wouldn't put them on the tart until you're ready to serve it, because they'll sort of go a bit wet and chewy. Put them on when you're ready to serve. The final flourish. Okay, so our tart's chilled for just over an hour in the fridge. You can obviously leave it overnight, that's fine. And our peanut brittle has completely set. So we're gonna chop it up and pop it on top of the tart. And you can hear, that's the hard crack we were looking for. You can cut it in shards, you can chop it into more of a crumb if you prefer, but I quite like the dramatic nature of having some lovely shards on top. You can scatter it over. You know, you don't have to be neat with this. Like I say, it's quite a rustic little tart. And then sprinkle over all the caramelly bits. And there we have it. Our vegan chocolate tart with salted caramel peanuts. Well, I think I'm going to have to give this a bit of a taste. Fantastic. There we go, and you see the truffly chocolatiness. Well, I hope you enjoy your tart. Happy Christmas.